I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would someone move item 1.02, please?
Move it. Second.
Sorry, guys.
Is there any discussion? Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Okay. Mrs. Albagore.
Yes.
Mr. Cordone.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Mr. DeJalorme.
Yes.
And Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Goodness.
Thank you.
2, 3, 4, 5.
In this format, for the benefit of anyone that may be viewing this evening, I would like to remind you that our public forum is conducted through your ability to contact the board using either the email to our board clerk. And Mrs. Perry, could you help me with that again? I should have it memorized.
Sure. It's clerk@fulton.cnyric.org.
Or you may call 315-593.
35511.
Okay, 315-593-5511. And your comments will be forwarded to the board and we will respond to you as soon as practicable. And if, in case you didn't get a chance to write that down, you can find that information on the district website. Item number 1.04, would someone move it?
Move it.
Second?
Discussion?
I'm at a board meeting.
Pardon me? All those in favor? I am a yes.
Hands. We want to do hands?
Oh, all right. I'm a yes. If you can see them all, sure.
I can see him. Okay.
I've got Mr. Crandall's a yes. Mrs. Lyons is a yes. Mrs. Cooper is a yes. Mrs. Abelgore is a yes. Mr. DeJalorme is a yes. And Mr. Cordone is a yes. And I'm a yes.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding any of the meetings in the president's report? Anything, any of the items that are coming up? Okay. That brings us to item 2.02.
Move it.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Okay. Mrs. Albagore. Mr. Cordone.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
I'm a yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Okay.
Mr. DeJalorme.
Yes.
And Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Very good.
And Superintendent Polvino, I'm passing it over to you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I hope everybody's staying cool in this very warm weather out there tonight. When we set this agenda up, we would hope to be talking about hopefully a passed budget and election results and all that good stuff. And then Sunday things changed a bit. So there's not a lot of update to that. I want to thank you for your support last week as we had a number of issues. If anything we've done is we've learned a lot about the absentee ballot process. I hope higher ups across the state learn a lot from the experience from schools as they look at future elections. To wake up this morning and watch some of the Georgia elections and just some of the things that people went through yesterday was very interesting to watch their experience going on down there, 3 and 4 hours in lines and just all sorts of things. The absentee ballot process, obviously you're aware that we didn't have the original Board of Elections listing. We rectified that this past Monday night, a week ago. And then we sent out 5,500 ballots by 4 p.m. on Tuesday. Then we had our issue on the ballot. In fact, only one person called in the entire time. Thousands of people saw that. I know Jean and Ann fielded some calls each day, but again, very supportive. If anything, resulted in a lot of great conversations that Jean and Ann shared with me. So that was good that we processed through that. So thank you for that. The budget vote, as you know, was changed on the this past Sunday. At 3 p.m. It wasn't during the press conference. He changed graduation, but Ms. Parker will still talk about that. That was an unanticipated announcement on Sunday. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. We did receive some guidance I shared with you last night in your, because you may field questions and things like that. I just want to, I'll read that. It was in your update last night. It was with respect to just kind of how this whole thing has impacted the 16th. So again, we have to get the ballots by 5 p.m. Any receptacle used for hand delivery of absentee ballots in such election will be closed and removed at 5 p.m. on June 9th. So last night was our final night. We pulled the red ballot box in at 5 p.m. It was not placed out there. That was at the direction of our attorneys and the state guidance. And that was a great box. So it was good to have. We had a lot of people return their ballots that way. So that was a great thing that we did for them. Also, the piece that goes along with it, no ballots for such election will be accepted by the school district after 5 p.m. on June 9th, except those received by mail. So even if somebody contacts you and said, hey, can we just take this over? We, in fact, have to say to them, which is frustrating, but we have to say to them, no, you actually have to drop this in the U.S. Postal Service mail. That's the way that does. So even if somebody showed up at the office, during the day and said, yeah, I want to drop my ballot off, we actually have to say to them, you have to drop it in the U.S. mail. And it's also, the other piece is that June 9th was the deadline for voters to request and receive an absentee ballot from the district. So we did get clarification from our attorneys. Again, practicality doesn't make sense, but from a legal standpoint, people needed to have their ballots by 5 p.m. yesterday. We didn't field any calls today from anybody requesting any ballots. And I need to give a shout out to Jean Perry. She actually was delivering. I was available and willing all weekend or whenever. And Jean has been delivering ballots because she probably knows more people than I do that way. So Jean's been doing that. Thank you to our board members too, who gave us information. We tried to get to voters as quickly as possible if they needed ballots and whatnot. And then we found that the U.S. Postal, and this isn't a knock, Mr. DiGiorno, we're in the same mailing. Some families, the one spouse got it one day and one spouse got it the other, and we can't figure out why. So Jean was great. She would just say, just wait a day and let's just make sure. And in many cases, she got a phone call back saying it came today. So again, the U.S. Postal Service is working hard as well over the last couple of weeks, carrying a lot more mail than generally would carry here in Fulton. So I wanted to share that with you because I think it's important for you to board members because that may be confusing for people. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And then today,
Brian, you're on mute.
okay. Sorry about that. Also released and on board today was Cuomo promises a plan for budget revotes. Now, we had a discussion about contingencies and things like that, so questions may arise. We'll watch that. He's talking about July 9th or later if something happened. I'm going to be an eternal optimist, and we're not going to have that issue, but we had talked about contingencies, but that is out there, so that will, I'm sure, start discussion and things like that. So I just wanted you to draw attention to that. It should have come in your onboard, and I can send that to you tomorrow as well, just so you have that information. A lot of guidance is changing each and every day. So that's what's going on with our absentees. We exceeded over 2,000 ballots received. And if you recall, our average is about 600. So right now we're somewhere around 3 times as many ballots as we've seen. Actually, if you recall, a couple of years ago, I shared with the board a NISBA a study, 13-year study, and I believe the highest on the study going back to, I think, 2005, was 1,300 votes here in Fulton. So to say we're over 2,000 is pretty amazing, and really got me reflecting on the fact that 600 is about 5% of our voters. So when you really think about our average, you know what, this is what it's for. We live in a democracy, and it should be, all of our voices should be represented. So that's the real positive thing that I'm seeing on this, and maybe it'll get people thinking about how much their vote counts in every election now and in the future. With that, if there are any questions around this process, at 5:01 on the 16th, we'll start counting. We'll start the process. I will say Jean put together a summary. Jean, you want to say anything about that summary about how the vote counts will happen that evening where there's a few questions out there?
Okay, so what we have, what I put together today was for the inspectors. So we have 15 poll inspectors coming in that evening. We're going to start at 4:00. They'll come in. There's an oath that they need to sign, and Shelley Doyle will notarize that. And then we'll have a review of the process. And about 10 minutes to 5, we'll take the ballots from the walk-in safe downstairs and bring them up. We're going to be in the gym. We're going to start setting that up on Friday. Audrey Avery, who is our lead person, is going to be in charge of the challenges, community, if there's any community challenges. So at 5:01, Audrey's going to start that process. And there's actually a script that she will read, letting people know what she's doing, what they can do, how they do it, so on and so forth. And I can share all the documents with you later tonight. So Audrey will start that, and then at different times. So it will go from 5:01 to 5:20. And a couple of times in there, she'll announce, if you want to make a challenge, here's the number. And basically what a challenge is, if a community member has an issue with a person's vote, they think somebody voted, they weren't 18 years old. And there's a short list, but if they bring it in, then we pull that ballot and then look at it. And there's a list of things that we look for to determine if it's okay to be challenged or it's not challenged. And it's a little tricky. And so our attorneys have said, if you get into a bind, you're not sure what to do, give us a call, which I'm fine with that. It's a new process for us, but I feel pretty good about it overall. So at 5:20, I have teams set up. So what's going to happen is they're going to take the absentee ballot. One person is going to open the ballot. The second person is going to take the ballot out of the envelope and put it in a bucket. It's a mail bucket, actually, Nick. Swish it around, and then the third person will take it out and we'll clip them together in 25. This gives the voters the comfort that nobody is going to know how they voted. So the envelope goes one way and the ballot goes another way. Once we get through all of the ballots, then we'll spread out, get into the tables, and start to do a tally. So each person has a tally sheet, and they're just going to use tick marks. Audrey is going to do a check of everybody's ballot sheet, and then she's going to give it to Ann. So Ann's created an Excel sheet. She'll log it in, and we're also going to do a manual sheet. So at the end of the night, the Excel sheet and the manual sheet will match. Let me see here. So that'll continue until we're all through the ballots. Once we get through the ballots, we're going to do the balance out, find out who are our board members. Did the budget pass? We'll put that on a sheet. I'll notify the media, Brian, the board, of the outcome, and then we will take the ballots back downstairs and lock them up in the vault.
And Jean, it'll be live streamed?
Yes, it's going to be live streamed. Tim and Don will take care of that, and I'll go through the process with them just about 4:30, just to make sure everything is clear. And we'll have an easel there so we can post results so the community can also see the results when everything is wrapped up.
And Jean, if someone wants to be there in person,
Absolutely. Yep. We're right in the gym, so plenty of room there. We're going to spread out to accommodate social distancing. So if anybody wants to drop in, the doors will be open. They can certainly come in, come out, however they want to work it.
Okay. If people are coming in, do they need to be wearing a mask?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to have masks, hand sanitizer, and like I said, the tables will be there's enough room in the gym we can spread out. But absolutely, if anybody wants to come in, they definitely can.
And if possible, could we post that portion for people that want to view? Make sure it's on our website.
Yep.
For the general public, if that they know that they can live stream and watch. Thank you. And thank you for all of the thoughtful work that's gone into laying out the plan. I know you've spent an incredible amount of your time working on that with our attorneys and others, and I am very appreciative.
We have a very good team, and I think there was a lot of conversation about the best way to do it, And I feel like our team, the team that we have together, they know how to get a job done. So I have a lot of faith, and we've had a couple of discussions. We've had a couple of online meetings. So all in all, I feel pretty good. It's going to be a good flow.
And lastly, I want to give you kudos for thinking about the anonymity of a person's vote, because that hadn't even crossed my radar. I hadn't even thought about that till you brought it up.
Yes.
And I appreciate that you're thinking about the whole voting process and trying to maintain its credibility and its people's right to keeping it private.
Yes,
so thank you.
For sure.
Jean,
Yes, Tim.
are you sure we can have people in there? Don't we have to follow the same election laws as like a state election? Because if you have an election, usually once the polls close, the public is not allowed inside when they tally up the votes on the machines or
Right.
that.
I will double check, Tim. I think that it's a little bit different because we are going to live stream it. So, you know, everybody's going to see everything anyway. So whether they're there, but I'll double check for sure.
Okay.
That's a great point, Tim. We're trying to get it right every which way we can. So we're double checking, triple checking everything. So it's a great question. There's no bad question I've learned around absentee ballots. So,
and I have a new appreciation for the mailman.
Watch out, man.
All righty. If you have any questions, we'll continue to post things on the website, get information out. The streaming we'll make sure is clear. You know, probably the most important part of the streaming part would be the challenging part at the beginning, challenging votes. So what's going to happen at 5:20, we will open however many absentee ballots that we have, 2,000 plus. They'll all be opened. They're put into the buckets. Then they're randomly pulled out into the sections of 25. So that's how that works. So after they're opened, there's no challenge after that because every ballot is opened at that point. You wouldn't know whose it was in the first place. So.
Brian, the other thing I wanted to ask was, will we have the on our webpage, where on the front page, the place where people can click to get into the live stream view? In other words,
we'll make sure it's very clear that evening. We'll clear some other off and we'll take the clutter off. Yep.
Thank you. Make it nice and large for people so people don't say they can't find it. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, any other questions? Again, thank you to Jean and all of the individuals who have been a part of this process, as well as the entire board. This has been statewide, a major learning experience. In fact, I was talking to a small city school district at a meeting yesterday around reopening, and what was interesting is a couple of superintendents found out at that meeting that they had to live stream their count. So, we're all learning here at a very fast pace. So with that, I'm going to move towards the graduation. Ms. Parkhurst, thank you for everything you've been doing. I know, Ms. Abelgore, you also serve on that team, so thank you for that. Ms. Parkhurst, if you could talk about the GRB graduation, please.
I would be happy to. Good evening. Okay, it's been a long road here, and I want to be able to explain some of the process that we've taken and why, and where we've ended. I think we've ended in a pretty good place. So about a month ago, we put a task force together made up of staff, students, and parents. We were really tasked with how are we going to conduct a ceremony to graduate 216 students while following the COVID-19 parameters of no more than 10 people in one mass gathering. And keep in mind also that our graduation ceremony has been scheduled for June 20th, right along. We set that date, usually set that date right about any time now. I'll be a little hesitant setting that date for next year, but regardless, the task force have spent several hours just having discussions around how do we accommodate so many of our families and their needs and their wants while staying within the parameters set forth by our governor. Again, with that said, our ceremony had originally been scheduled for June 20th. Part of the work with the task force was making sure that we were following guidelines and guidance set by our health department. We had our attorney reviewing our plans before we were ready to get them out there. And our initial plan was to conduct, and still is, it's part of a bigger plan now, but our initial plan was to conduct a drive-up style ceremony right in front of our school on William Gillard, out near the flagpole, setting up our stage, decorating it, making it a special event. And again, you know, the challenging part of that is the limit of 10 people. That plan outside, the drive-up style ceremony, includes immediate families, and the guidance toward the very last minute, we finally got some guidance from New York State, the New York State Health Department. We checked what our plan wanted to be, and it lined up nicely. Their guidance it specifies immediate families who live in the same household can only be in the car that's spectating the ceremony. Masks must be worn by the graduates, by all, and can only be taken down at the time of photography. You know, it talks about whoever hands the student their, no shaking of hands, whoever hands a student their diploma. If you hand them the diploma, you need to have gloves on. If not, they can take their diploma from the table. We were working on all of those details out. Then came this past Sunday and our governor's announcement. The announcement was that we high schools are now permitted to conduct a ceremony with up to 150 people. So we went from 10 up to 150 people. Our task force came together that evening, and we had a very difficult conversation, and everybody spoke: administrators, teachers, parents. Again, Brenda is on that task force, and we have 4 seniors on that task force as well. It was at that time that our committee really emphasized the need for, they wanted a ceremony, reminding each other this is what we wanted from day one, is a ceremony. So we went to work on developing a plan to accommodate no more than 150 people at one time. So again, keep in mind, we have 216 graduates. The committee decided that we wanted to change the date. I left that part out. The governor's announcement included no more than 150, but no earlier than June 26th. So the committee decided they wanted to move the date to that time so that we could have 150 people. We made plans, we put that announcement out, and we did hear from several families, frustrated families. What we decided to do was put together options to accommodate, once again, as many needs as we could. So here's where we ended. We will still have the June 20th, it's Saturday morning, we will still have the June 20th ceremony. We will still allow up to 2 cars. And again, going back to that plan that we had in place for that drive-up ceremony. Part of the plan for the new ceremonies on the 26th, the weekend of the 26th, includes smaller sized ceremonies down on our athletic complex. Again, no more than 150 people. And we decided as a committee, we couldn't allow any more than 2 tickets per family member. So something that needs to be weighed by our families when you're weighing your pros and cons of what is important for a graduation ceremony. So again, at this point, families have the choice of remaining with the drive-up style ceremony or attending a ceremony down on our athletic complex, either Friday evening, the 26th, Saturday morning, the 27th, or Saturday evening, the 27th. So we had a lot of options that we put out for families. We put a survey out Monday night to see how many people would be interested during those time frames. We didn't give specific times. We just this afternoon finished tallying up everybody's preferences. We got to everybody except 26, I think, families. I had the staff here working. They did a great job. So here's where and I just put an email out for the sign up preference. We are asking families to sign up through what's called Sign Up Genius, and a lot of the teachers use it to sign families up for parent-teacher conferences. It works great. So I sent the email out right about 5 o'clock today, and families will have the option of choosing a time on the 20th, beginning at 10 o'clock. There will be 15-minute sessions. We will be able to bring 40 students through per hour. We had 67 families express an interest in maintaining that drive-up style. These are families that wanted to be able to have more than 2 family members watching, and or they had conflicts with the date of the 26th or the 27th. They had that date set from day one, and that was the date that they wanted to stick with. On the 26th, Friday evening, we are going to conduct 2 ceremonies. It's a popular time for families. I had it in front of me. We had 56 families interested in Friday evening. We can't have more than 45 graduates during one ceremony. So we're going to have 2. We're going to do one Friday evening at 5 o'clock. And we're going to do another one at 7 o'clock. Saturday morning, we have 33 families interested, and we are going to conduct a ceremony Saturday morning, the 27th, at 10 o'clock. And Saturday evening, we had 21 families interested, so we'll conduct a ceremony Saturday evening at 5 o'clock. We could not reach 26 families, but given all of those numbers, we will certainly have room once we do hear from these families, when we will find them, we will have room for them to be able to make a selection for the date and time that they would like. Each of the ceremonies, the one that's going to be out front and the 4 that will be down at the athletic complex, they will all be live streamed for anybody that's not able to be here on campus. And every student is going to receive a recording on a flash drive actually this Friday, we are taping speeches, and thank you to members who are saying some words of wisdom to our graduates. That will also be included in their special recording. We are also going to do an individual profile on every graduate, their name, their post-high school plan. And we do have many candid pictures of memories for our students to have as a keepsake. So every student will receive that. Included in that will be all of the live streams from the ceremonies. Okay, I think I've included everything, and I'm happy to talk about any questions or concerns that you may have. It's a lot of information. It happened very quickly. I am very confident. We've allowed for a lot of flexibility and choice. I know that we will have a ceremony that it wasn't what we pictured in the beginning of the year, but we are working very hard to make sure that it's special for all of our families. So questions, comments?
I just wanted to, well, go ahead. I was going to just thank Brenda. I'd be remiss if I didn't. Brenda and I were communicating a bit during the meeting, and the last thing she said, Jay, couldn't we consider the 20th still? And I want to thank her because she planted the seed and kept that going. And as you can see, I think, Ms. Parkhurst, I think you said 67 families took advantage of that. So great news. And you did a great job on that committee, Brenda, representing not only your families, but the voices of a lot of families. And you stayed at it. So thank you.
Donna, what time is the 20th?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
10 a.m. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure thing. We have the appointment set up for that morning to be able to accommodate 80. We have 67 signed up. We can accommodate 80. We can certainly hand schedule any in that we set it up for the sessions to go throughout 2 hours at 15-minute intervals. So we're pretty sure that will work out.
Will there be a representative from the board?
I am welcoming yes, good question, Lynn. I'm welcoming one member from the board to sit on our stage at each of the ceremonies. I invite that and certainly welcome that.
Okay.
I also wanted to, Donna, one of the things Donna didn't, and one of the positive feedback we've gotten around this, we're kind of the talk of around the county a little bit, is our kids. So let's say the 7 of you all wanted to graduate together. You could actually sign up for either the same ceremony or the same block of 15 minutes to actually watch each other walk across the stage. We're getting a lot of positive feedback, and that was something that came out of Donna and her team. Great idea, and it's getting some very nice reviews because kids wanted to see their friends, and in some cases, some wanted more family than 2, and it just is the flexibility it's allowed, but the ability for kids to be able to watch their best friend or be there with their best friend, it's a really neat feature that I'm not sure everybody else is doing, but it's something that we should be very proud of, that we're building in that flexibility. So.
Yeah, the students really kept bringing that up throughout all of our meetings, that, they wanted to be with one another. And that's really the hardest part here, is that the kids are not ending the year together as a class. And when the question was posed toward the end of our meetings, it was, can we choose the students we graduate with? And of course, we get in our mindset of it's alphabetical. It's, no, you have to sit alphabetical. And so I just kind of paused for a minute and I thought, I guess I don't see why not, so we're, they're happy about that.
As the person who leads the part of the coherence plan that's on family engagement, I just want to take a minute to pause and to thank Brenda and the other parents and the students, and with Becca being on the board, our students for their voice, but I really want to recognize our high school leader, because Donna has gone above and beyond to listen. And this has been it's a very charged topic throughout our state. And I can tell you confidently that she went above and beyond to make sure that families got what they wanted. And that's huge, because many districts, it's this way or the highway. And she really listened to the task force. That was a task force that was put together with the true intent of everyone having a voice. And that takes skill as a leader. And I want you to know that, and I know Brenda at the end, there was a lot of emotion there. There was a lot of, for parents, for grandparents in the community, for students. So I just really want to applaud her and the work that she did along with the task force. So thank you, Donna, for serving our students.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We all agree. You do a great job.
Thank you. This has not been easy for anybody. So Brenda.
I just want to say thank you, Donna, for, really listening to everybody. You never said, no, that's not going to work. You put it right out there that you were listening. You were going to make it work if you could. So I really appreciate that as a parent of our class of 2020. I think it's going to look really nice regardless if you sign up for the mini ceremony or if you sign up for the Saturday morning drive up. I know that Dom will put together a really nice memory for our kids, and that's pretty important. And one more thing, I know that some of our families wanted to be able to watch together. Mrs. Parkhurst, we and I are working with the Nagelschmidts to do something this summer at the drive-ins so that the seniors can come together and watch on the big screen their class together. So that's just something a little extra on the side that's going to be happening for our seniors as well. So thank you very much to the Nagelschmidts and Mrs. Parkhurst for making that happen as well. So it was an honor to serve on that committee with you, even though it was a little emotional at times.
Yeah. Thank you, Brenda.
I want to throw in my 2 cents that Ms. Parkhurst, I had some feedback and I reached out to you to try to understand, and you spent a fair amount of time explaining things to me, so I had understanding of what the whole issues were. And in all of that, you were, unbeknownst to me, formulating in your mind how you were going to address those needs, because I don't even think of many hours passed when you had addressed the concerns that had been brought to you. So again, to everybody's point, you are a good listener, and you responded very quickly again to issues that were brought to you, and I'm grateful for that. With regard to a board member being represented, I believe Mrs. Parkhurst is going to contact board members about the time she has available. I am unable to do it, and so she will be contacting folks and setting up times. I've talked to her a little bit about I've heard from a couple of people, and I know Mrs. Abelgore's stepping up, and I know that I have a colleague that's unable to do it. But we are there in spirit if we can't be there in body. So thank you, Mrs. Parkhurst, for that. And for the rest of you, you can look forward to hearing from Mrs. Parkhurst about available times, and try to work out with her if you can be there. And for those of you that do, my thanks in advance for doing that in the light of the fact that I could not do this. Thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yep.
First of all, I wanted to thank Mrs. Parkhurst and the committee for doing an outstanding job and being so flexible. Honestly, my hat's off to you. It's really amazing, honestly. My only question is, because there are so many questions in the community, how are we doing it, communicating all of this information out, whether it's on our website or even something like a frequently asked questions, because I know you guys are getting a lot of the same questions over and over again. That way we can make our community members clear on the plan and the days and things like that. I know we're reaching out to the family, but we're going to get feedback. And
Isn't it on the website already? Because somebody contacted me and said they saw it on the website.
Probably the dates, Lynn, but thank you, Fallon. Yes, I've been so wrapped up in the details and working closely with our senior families. I could easily do a video message and put that on Facebook. I think that Facebook seems to be what people are watching, so I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, just so we can appreciate all the hard work and the dedication that you and the task force have put into this. We know that you've been up late and spending a lot of hours, and it's important that our community recognizes how hard you guys are working to make sure what this graduation looks like and to getting our seniors to graduate in this realm and in this difficult time. So
yeah,
my hat's off to you guys, but thank you.
Yep. No, thank you for that suggestion.
I have one other thing that needs to be said. I feel a need to say it. I want people to understand that the way these are structured, please don't show up if you're not invited, because if we have too many people and a complaint is made, I believe our graduations can be shut down. Is that not correct, Mrs. Parkhurst?
Yes, that's been
So
happened. Yep.
I am appealing to everyone in the community to please be respectful of the students and their families and who they've chosen, and do not, because the times are advertised, decide that you're going to try to sneak over and sneak a peek. It could create problems and it could shut down the graduation. And I know no one would want to knowingly do that. So I feel compelled to say it right out front that that's what could happen if we are not compliant. So I'm asking everyone to please work with us on meeting compliance.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you again. Amazing how things just keep processing. We're practicing the art of flexibility in these fluid times. And with that, that's the conclusion of the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item 4.01. We'll move it.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? I am a yes.
Mrs. Albagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJalorme,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Very good.
Item 4.02, would someone move it?
Move it. Second.
Discussion? I just wanted to, I had asked our superintendent about this amount compared to last year's amount. And it turns out that they're significantly close, pretty much similar. So we didn't see a tremendous impact this year. Yeah, that may be different next year, but this year, the number's about the same.
Yep.
I am a yes.
Okay, Mrs. Albagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
I'm a yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJalorme,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Very good.
Item 4.03, would someone move it?
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Okay, Mrs. Albagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
I'm a yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJalorme,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Item 5.01,
Move it.
Second.
discussion? I am a yes.
Mrs. Albagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
I'm a yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJalorme,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Item 5.02, it's the first reading of policy 2220.0, board officers. Are there any questions or concerns?
Nope.
All right, we'll move on then to item 6.01.
Move it. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? I am a yes.
Mrs. Albagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
I'm a yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJalorme,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Item 7.01.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
Just thinking down the line and the fact that we, are being very responsible with our financial status. Is this a position that we are looking to refill, or is this something we might be able to work around?
So what we do with all positions, it's a great question, Brenda. Anytime we have a resignation or a retirement, we will ask ourselves that. And in this case, we're still waiting on the budget. So what I would say on that is, and Mr. Greer can chime in, what I would say is we'll look at that, but at the same time, we'll probably post. And then what we'll do is we'll go through the process, and then hopefully in the next couple of weeks, fingers crossed, that the federal government does what they need to do over the next week or two, and that'll allow us to really get a better feel on what our financial picture and revenue picture is going to be for the state.
Okay.
Mr. Greer, anything you'd add to that?
Yes, Brian, in anticipation, or really not knowing what may transpire between now and whenever with regards to state funding, we have posted it. We have posted it as an open position. And as Brian said, we will evaluate where we are with regards to finances and state aid and make a decision from there. But better to at least get that out there now as opposed to a month or two down the road and waiting.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Mrs. Alvagore,
She's muted.
So sorry. Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJarm,
Yes.
and Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Item 7.02,
Move it.
Second.
discussion. Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Mrs. Alvagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
I'm a yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJarm,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask the board, we have a number of tenure appointments. Did you want to batch these? Are we allowed to batch them? I should ask Mr. Greer. Or can we batch these?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And the board has done that in the past.
Just wanted to verify. If it's the board's pleasure, we could batch 7.03 through 7.19.
I'll move to batch.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? I would just like to offer my congratulations to each and every person who is about to receive their tenure. Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Okay, Mrs. Alvagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJarm,
Yes.
and Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Item 7.20,
Move it.
Second.
discussion. Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Okay, Mrs. Alvagore,
She's muted.
You don't hear me be quiet very often. Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJarm,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Item 7.21, please.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion. Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Okay, Mrs. Alvagore,
I am not muted. I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJarm,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Item 7.22,
Move
Move
it.
it. Second.
discussion.
I do have one quick question, and this is just so we can clarify possibly for the community. Can you just briefly explain or touch base, Brian, on how it is we're saving money in this department by hiring two new techs? Is that fair of me to ask?
It is fair for you to ask any question at any time, and you're doing exactly what I've asked you to do. It's always ask questions when you have them. Mr. Greer, do you want to chime in? Because you did a nice job summarizing. I don't want to get it inaccurate, but I can if you wish.
Well, and I wish I had that summary in front of me, but I will respond as best I can, Brenda. We currently contract with the CINEREC, Central New York Regional Information Center, for technology services. We currently have 3 part-time technicians working for us. 2 are working 3 days a week, and then they work in other districts, the other 2. And 1 technician is working 2 days a week. And we do pay the CINEREC for those services, and some of that is aidable. So effectively, with those 3 individuals, we are getting 8 days a week of service. By making this transition to placing 2 of the staff members on board, we're currently titled as land techs with the CineRec. We're using I think it's around $112,000 after aid that we would normally pay BOCES. We also have some additional dollars that we are currently or have in the budget for other services for BOCES, and we will transfer those dollars that we would have spent on BOCES also to support these two individuals. And then there are some additional savings that we are confident we will be able to take advantage of through purchasing and cost reductions of some of our technology equipment and hardware. So it's effectively going to be net neutral.
Okay. Thank you.
I couldn't have said it better, Mr. Greer. Outstanding. I'm going to miss that, Outstanding, outstanding summary.
Any other discussion?
I think that was important for him to explain that for
Yeah.
the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question, Mrs. Abelgore.
Yep.
And we're getting 2 extra days of 2 extra days per week of tech support, which is equally critical in light of our endeavor of virtual learning and virtual instruction, and more changes to come, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
If there's no other discussion, Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Okay, Mrs. Abelgore,
I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJalorme,
Yes.
and Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
All right. Board forum. Mr. Crandall, you want to kick it off tonight?
Oh, sure. Now, is Bessie there?
She is.
No. Is that Michael Picano's any relation to you? I see where that's going. I see you're retiring and you're putting him to work. Good going. Must be you don't want to be home and have him there bothering you. Another question. One thing I think we're still on for the convention in October, right?
What, Tim?
Are we still on for the convention in October?
Who knows?
Well, I see there was an email that they're taking reservations July 27th, I believe I saw, for the hotel.
It's already taken care of, Tim.
Are we going to the Wellington?
That's been taken care of since March.
Well, I saw an email that said we had to have it booked. They were going to start by the 27th.
The
We have a
Wellington?
different plan.
The Wellington?
No, I didn't see that, but I just wondered if that's where we were going.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, really.
they're going to
Other
take care
than
of us.
that-
Yeah. That's
other
if they're
than
open.
that-
They're closed right now till the end of June.
Oh, okay. Well, that's taken care of. Other than that, everyone's doing great. And that's it. I'm done.
Thanks, Tim. Lynn?
Geez, I don't know. I can't thank everybody enough for what they did with this graduation. I have had so many phone calls myself and questions, and also about voting, which is out of the norm. And I think that's been handled wonderfully. And Jane, thank you for everything you've done with that. I really appreciate it. And nothing more, I guess.
Fallon?
You know, I always have something. I wanted to go back to the meetings really quickly. I apologize. I wasn't prepared. I have, in addition to these meetings, and I could be wrong, they could have gotten rescheduled, the safety meeting on June 16th. And then also, do we have an audit meeting on June 19th?
You know, I think you're right about the audit meeting. I don't have it on this calendar. You're right. I missed that.
I just know I have to attend both, so I wanted to make sure.
We do, yes, the audit, we do have an audit committee meeting on the 19th.
Okay. And I believe we have a safety meeting on the 16th as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. And also, I've been getting some questions from community members about if we're going to be doing a summer food program. Have we had any direction from the governor's office about any summer food programs?
So it's a great question, Fallon. The answer to that is no. Our last day right now is June 25th. We're going to provide food through the 30th. So
Okay.
lunches, in other words, we know how we do the long weekend pack and such. Right now, we've never been a summer feeding place. Now, you did see, or you may have seen that on Friday night, the governor talked about students with disabilities and extended school year. And so we're trying to figure that one out. We're getting guidance by the day, limited, but we're getting some. And we would provide, obviously, food and nutrition services for students participating in that program. So right now, the answer is no. But we would be working closely with the community agencies that we always work with in the summer.
Nope, that's good. I just know that there was a question up in the air for a while if he was going to enforce us to continue a summer food program. So that's
well, as you speak, you never know because he changes by the day and the minute, and we never know. We've been asking for that guidance because originally he did say that it was going to continue, but his executive order has not been adjusted or changed to reflect the funding that would go along with that.
Okay. Thank you so much. And then I also wanted to bring up, there was a recent article in Syracuse.com talking about the decline in the population in New York State and in our area in particular. And I think Fulton was a decline of 7%. So between that and the decrease in revenue for the state and, our budgets for the next few years are going to be really difficult. I also wanted to take a second to encourage any community members who have not filled out the census to do that. I know that's getting pushed until October, but still we're going to really feel that and make sure that we're communicating the importance of the census and why we need it filled out between that declining population and, the revenue. We're really going to be facing some uphill battles with our tax population and funding that we get. So, next year's planning may need to be significant items that we have to look at because we don't know what's going to happen. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you.
Fallon, we'll put that in our letter this week too to families again. So we make sure we keep putting out there. So thank you for that reminder.
Sure. Yeah, I know with the COVID-19, it got pushed a little. We have a little bit longer for families to reply. So hopefully we'll pick up some more families that way. But it just makes me nervous with the decline of the population and our current budget with the state.
Thank you. Nick.
Well, yes, just congratulations and thank you to the graduation task force. I'm glad everything ran so smoothly.
Love his sense of humor.
And is there anybody out there that knows that I'm on the board? Because I never get phone calls.
Wow. We got to work on that.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Put a billboard?
Year 3.
No, I never get stopped in the store.
Come to my house, I get many.
That's all I had. It was just thank you. Thank you for all your effort.
Just to echo the compliments paid to the graduation task force. I think it's great, the work that was done, and it sounds like Mrs. Applegore was an excellent addition to the committee for the board. So I just want to thank all of those members for their work and what they did for the students of the class of 2020. And that's it.
Brenda.
Well, first I want to say that that last email from Mrs. Parkhurst that went out for the senior parents, I'm telling you, it's like the mega concert tickets. You're like, those people were popping in names left and right. So we've been waiting. You probably have everybody signed up already. It was fantastic. I also I see Becca's not with us tonight, but I do want to thank her so much for being part of our board. She has brought such energy, and her voice has been great to getting us what the student side is. I'm really going to miss her next year, but I don't know if she's going to be at the next meeting with us or not, but if she's not, I just wanted to make sure that the community knows how wonderful it was for our first year of student representation. So good luck to her in her next chapter of life. And it'll be interesting to bring Sam's voice into this next year if he's still interested in sitting on the board with us. Also want to thank Jean so much for everything she has done with all of the crazy ballot snafus and running around and the many questions that she's answered for me to help with the community questions that I got. I think she deserves a vacation, Brian. Just going to throw that out there for you. But yeah, I don't have anything else at this point. Congratulations to all of our tenured employees. And you guys, thank you.
All right. Ditto to everything everybody said tonight with regard to my colleagues. And I would like to add that if anyone had a problem, it was because they did not call that number, that school number, because I know that many school employees received calls and knew exactly how to direct people to Mrs. Perry, who then worked to find solutions to get ballots in their hands to make sure their opportunity to vote occurred. And again, I want everyone to know that she worked extremely faithfully towards the end of making certain that the right to vote was allowed for anyone who was registered. It was one of her top priorities. And I want people to just know that it was a big priority. It made a lot of extra work for her. She did not complain. I felt sorry for her. She told me not to worry multiple times. Don't worry, it's the job. I'll get it done. And Jean, you did, because I heard back from a few people. They were grateful. So I just, again, for a system that we were not familiar with, we acted like a school system, an education system ought to. Everybody spent a lot of time learning ever since all of this COVID started in a lot of respects. And this voting was just one thing, teaching and learning, another thing, graduation, another thing, feeding people, another thing. We have been since March 16th, Mr. Polvino, as a school system, people in this system have been engaged every day in trying to find solutions and new ways to meet the demands of our students and their families. So for that, I thank everyone. And I hope that if any community members are watching, if you run into any of these folks, please do me the favor and just give them a high five. Well, not a high five. We're not allowed to touch, but a thank you or a nice smile would be great. So that's all I have tonight. And so I'm going to move to item 8.02.
Move it.
Second.
Mrs. Perry, I am a yes.
Now she's muted.
Mrs. Alvagore,
Yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Now he's muted.
David.
we need to come up with a sound.
Sorry.
Mrs. Cooper,
I'm a yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. DeJalorme,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Very good.
Okay, so I am going to offer, how much time do you need for a break, colleagues? Do you want 5 minutes or do you need longer? 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to enter into our executive session to deal with the board self-evaluation. Anyone out there watching, thank you for joining us this evening. We hope you learned a little bit about what's going on in your school system, and we hope you find time to join us again. We hope you had a little bit of fun tonight with us. All right, so 5 minutes, folks. I'll see you back here.
See you in 5.
He's rolling.
My agenda. So item number, and who's recording this? Item number 8.03. Someone move it.
Move it.
So
Second.
I have Dave and I have Brenda.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand.
We're all raising our hand, Robin.
Okay. 700. I thank
8:20.
you all. Have a great evening, everybody. And
You
thank
too.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Talk to you soon, everybody. Thank you.
You guys have a great night.